Hello everyone, my name is Thuy Nga Chen and today I'm gonna share with you my observation experiences. This week I had an opportunity to conduct a lot of observation including anecdotal running record, movement map observations. So I will share with you about my favorite tour and also about the tour that I find most challenging for me and how I will use the observation tools in the future. First, I'm gonna talk about my favorite tour that definitely could go to time event sampling. Why? Because of four reasons. The first one is this kind of tool is super quick and easy to use, and I don't need to be like no training needed. Because it's so easy to distinguish between on task and off task. By looking at the children's eyes focus, their body gesture, and between captivated or not captivated. Even though the event sampling tool require more precise and thorough event definition for the observation to be valid, it is still an easier tool to use. Secondly, this kind of tool gives quantifiable data right after observation is made. It's like counting game, and yeah, I find it's not hard to do the counting game. I just count the time the children do that, and then you have the exact number. And one more reason why I like this tool is because it clearly shows increase or decrease of incidents. An observer can graph or chart the data to find a consistent pattern. However, I find this tool is not detailed enough like the anecdotal and running record tool. It also does not show a sequence of events. And about the tool that I find the most challenging, although this kind of tool, the anecdotal record provide a vivid detail about what, who, where, when, how, and quantitative data would help tracking the child development over time. I would still find this tool was challenging because the data is often tainted if I do not write it after observation. Moreover, when I conduct anecdotal record, I just focus on one situation, one event, or one behavior, and sometimes I miss the other important information. And the result is not quantitative data, so I cannot track the typical pattern over time. Now let's look at the example about movement map observation. So this kind of tool pretty much the same as anecdotal, but it's more visual. But the thing is, it does not provide quantitative result, so I couldn't track the typical pattern. I didn't know how many times the child came to the shell to pick a specific type of activity. So with the time and event sampling, I can do that. But with anecdotal record and movement map observation, it's quite hard to do so. That example make me think of how I can use observation tools in the future. So first, understanding and trying out a variety of tool to see advantages and disadvantages of each tool. Then I will figure out what tool are best for a specific situation. So let's come back to the example I mentioned before. So in this kind of situation, I think first I will conduct the anecdotal report and movement map observation to see how he moved in the class, what activity he chose, and I can know the sequence or the typical pattern. So as I also conduct anecdotal record for this situation as well, I know that he often chose the activity that is familiar for him. For example, dinosaur and animal. So from and then I conduct the time and event sampling, and I can count how many times he chose animals, how many times he chose dinosaur activities, like that. So the second ways I will use observation tools, like I will utilize the documented data to set realistic expectations for each child and design appropriate activity that foster socialization, growth, and development. So in that case, in the situation I mentioned, um, I know that that child he tend to choose the dinosaur and animal, so I will rearrange the activity in class so that it vary in difficult level of difficulty, so he will get more confident and choose something else rather than the dinosaur and the animal. Finally, I think we should conduct observation on a regular basis rather than waiting until the problems like delayed disability, impairment, or special education needs arise, because the sooner we gather the data, the earlier we can implement the interventions, and it will help the child to reach their age appropriate milestone faster. Thank you for listening to my sharing.